Lucy, Jorge, welcome to Bake Club.
How are ya?
Hello.
Okay, Bake Club, if you don't know these two amazing individuals, this is Lucy and Jorge. They are incredible humans. They're vets of the hospitality industry on many different levels, which you'll hear about. But I asked them to come and teach us today on Bake Club because they're the founders of GRC, Grocery Run Club. It's based out of Chicago. It's a community-driven initiative that partners with organizations to provide everything from food and other pantry needs, fresh produce and so on, everyday necessities to underserved neighborhoods in Chicago. And they'll get into it a little bit more, but more than anything, these are two humans whose life work has been in feeding people. And they most recently, just a few months ago, founded the Grocery Run Club and are gonna teach us about how we can show up for people in need in communities that are close to ours with food and with things that we have access to that they don't in order to do good and show up for people. So, Lucy, Jorge, where are you all today?
Hi, we're at Hospitality 201. We thought this is our friend's business. They're a cocktail catering company here in Chicago, and it's way cuter than our warehouse where we usually package things and definitely less noisy. So we thought we'd bring you guys in here today.
Yes.
Oh my, I love it.
Drinks while we pack this cocktail, this produce.
So Jorge, you both still have day jobs. Jorge, you live in the beverage field. You're also living in very incredible Tozy approved overalls, I just want to say. What's your day job?
My day job is I'm the cultural market manager for Diageo brands at MKTG. So I'm in the marketing world. The client is the beverage world as well. So I basically go around Chicago, partner with event organizers, predominantly in marginalized communities, Black and POC event organizers, and we support them while curating experiences with our beverage program. So with Crown Royal, Tanqueray, Don Julio, brands like that.
That's awesome. And Lucy, aside from wearing a very killer throwback Chicago Bulls t-shirt that many people—
You always catch me in Bulls gear. That's like the one thing you can count on me.
You have an events business that you also balance by day, acknowledging that business looks a little different right now.
Totally. I founded Loose Ends, which is my event production company, about 2 years ago. Obviously, like, events look so different right now, and I think that GRC has been able to kind of let me still live in this world of bringing people together and fostering community, which is what I love about doing events and hosting events and things like that. But GRC is definitely taking up all of my time in the meantime. I'm super excited to get back into events. I work on some more larger scale brand activations throughout the year. And so I'm excited to see lots of people in one place, hopefully sometime soon. But until then, we're focusing on GRC, which has been great.
I love it. Okay, what are you going to teach us today?
What are we going to teach you? So we wanted to teach you all, kind of show you a little bit of the background of what we do at GRC so that people can kind of get a better visual of, like, what are the things that we're providing to these communities, to our communities. And so we wanted to bring you all along to think more intentionally about the things that we donate, and the things that we share with communities when we hear, like, oh, there's a call for produce, and how can we show up? What should we bring? And how to be more intentional about that instead of just dumping out your pantry and donating that somewhere.
Yeah, I think everyone can take a little bit of this and apply it to their everyday life. And if they see an opportunity to donate fresh produce or non-perishable goods, like, take some notes down and just be aware of, like, what is culturally affirming and what these communities need.
I love it. So we're building a GRC box together, and there's so much that goes into this box, which I'm so excited to learn.
Yeah, and I think, like, obviously one box is, I mean, we brought an assortment of things, so, like, we don't even know if it's gonna fit into this one, but we'll figure it out. We'll, like, toss it over here, but I think we just wanted to give
for many things. Yes.
Right.
Box run is over is how we should be feeling by the end of this.
Yes, totally.
Okay, I have a cardboard box. Mine's like a top hat, awkward shape, but I'm getting So when you all show up in communities at GRC, are you physically building boxes, one that goes to each household?
Yes.
It's a mixture of things. So we'll tell you more about kind of how we have GRC structured to give folks a better idea. So the way that we're operating right now is through, I mean, we really owe it to all of our community, which I think is something that we want to push forth and just let people know, like, we're all part of a community, and you just need to find who those people are in your community that can help you work together to create a larger thing and create a larger impact. So right now the need that we essentially felt that we were filling was we started to volunteer a little bit after COVID was kind of at its heights, when we felt a little bit more comfortable leaving our homes. And we started to realize that at a lot of the places where we were volunteering, there was this intense need for donations, like where big brands and people were kind of activated to donate on a regular basis before, it had kind of started to taper down. However, we were seeing that the need for folks to receive these items was still there. So we were like, we have a bunch of friends that ask us where they can donate all of the time. What if we kind of serve as this middle person and take these donations and allocate them to folks that need them? That way people don't have to go digging and searching on where they want to donate. And so we essentially do we always say that we're the middle people. We're just the middleman that, you know, takes either funds and literally goes on grocery runs for organizations. And so the produce boxes are one of the many things that we provide some of our partners. So for example, when we have a distribution, this is kind of the easiest vessel to get people the things that they need. If we're doing personal hygiene products, we usually do like a little bag. But that's to say that when we are doing produce box distributions, this is the kind of the assortment that we make sure goes into there, so that families have a little bit of everything that they might need for the next couple days.
Yeah, we grab the boxes, tape them up, sticker them, and pack them.
Yeah.
I know this setup very well on a bunch of different levels. I mean, my mom still sends me as an adult care packages. So the idea of getting a cardboard box with tape on it, for me, and I am like wildly privileged by comparison to the communities that you serve, and that's not lost on me, but I love the spirit that like a cardboard box can hold.
Totally. It's like a little present. And I think even when we were putting together our cardboard boxes, we like wanted them to feel like there was an extra little touch on them. And so like, that's what we have, our sticker and like, you know, little colorful tape on the side, just to make it slightly more fun and joyous, instead of like, you know, this boring cardboard box that, although may have great content, like from the outside is not as appealing.
And intentional, right?
And intentional,
like,
yeah.
We're definitely trying to beautify the process of working together and helping your neighbor.
Yeah.
And this is kind of it, right? It's like how you're thinking about the outside of the box, which I think is such a great takeaway, that probably many people that show up with the intention to do good, you know, there are so many more opportunities. We miss opportunities every single day to show up for people. And I think this is just like a great start in that manner of like, this is packed with care and with love by someone that is really trying to show up for you, whatever you need. And I think that's such an interesting and powerfulness, because it goes into every part of your process. How do you decide the communities? Like, how do you decide community by community, which ones to serve on which weeks and so on? How does that work?
Yeah, I think Chicago is a very segregated city for many, many reasons. And so us being Chicago kids, we've seen that our entire lives of, you know, what parts of the city get major investments and which ones don't. And so for us, knowing that the south and west sides of the city not only don't get investment, but get majorly disinvested in, we wanted to make sure that those were our priority neighborhoods. And so we feel really fortunate that through our day jobs of community building, essentially through events and through beverage programs, we've been able to have this incredible network of people that were already on the ground in their communities doing work. And so a lot of them, you know, we work with a nonprofit called Alt Space that we adore, and they're based out of the Austin neighborhood, which is almost the furthest west you can go in city limits. And they are an arts nonprofit, but they pivoted their model to respond to what they were seeing was happening in their community, which was that there was a lack of access to not only food, but to personal hygiene products and cleaning supplies. And so they set up a little free market in an abandoned storefront, and just asked people, made the call, like, come and bring what you don't need, and anyone who needs things can take it as they'd like at no cost. And so they were our first partners. We reached out to them and said, like, how can we support? And they were like, the things on the shelves go so fast, we need a continual stock of items. And so we were like, we can be that partner for you. So we show up for them twice a week now, and just stock them with so many items. But so many of the items that we've been procuring are literally the things that we hear the neighbors say, like, hey, do you have cat food today? It's like, no, but we'll bring cat food next time, you know?
Got it. And it's all about like listening, right? Like all about like listening and being in touch and saying like, there does not have to be a large difference between you and I. And I think that's again like the connection that you bring. That's fascinating. You go and ask the question, right? It's like go, show up, and be curious.
It's so simple. And I think so that was kind of how we approached the partners and the neighborhoods that we were going to work in. We essentially started from this core of organizers, grassroots organizations that we already knew were doing the work in their community, knew what their community needed. And so we said, how can we support you? And so each of our organizations it has a little bit of a different need. Some of them have more of a need to have access to fresh produce, while others have more of a need to have access to cleaning products. And so we're able to tailor that, but I would say all of our partners right now are on the south and west sides of the city.
Okay, Jorge, who are we building this box for? Like what community are we going into? And start to talk me through some of the things we're going to put in it.
Definitely. So where we're going to start off is us structurally. JRC has how our mindset works is we have our essentials where any community can utilize these throughout the year. So we're going to start off there, and then we're going to lead into like the Latinx community, culturally affirming products for that community, and then culturally affirming products for the Black and African American community as well, right? Like the whole idea is that we want people to open up these boxes and have some sort of familiarity around them, something that reminds them of like something that they grew up eating when they were younger, or their grandma's cooking, and this was the ingredient that their grandma used, you know, for this family recipe or something. So we want that connection to really like shine through when they open up this box for those culture affirming products or through those culture affirming products. But how we're going to start off right now is literally just like some bananas.
Fruit. I have apples and oranges. How does that make you feel?
Yeah, that's great. We have apples and oranges too. We think it's super important to mix our produce boxes to have like vegetables and fruit. So whatever fruit you can find. We find that like apples, oranges, and bananas are just easy. They're always around. You can always find them.
Standard, everyone.
You can eat them as is. You can do something with them.
100%, yeah. You can literally open up the box immediately and like have a snack if you need that. And also it's a good way, it's a good energy source, right? Like growing up, if you have children, I always remember like having an apple after baseball or like a banana before like gym class or something.
Yeah.
Right. So that's how we're going to start off. And then, like Lucy said, it is a variation of fruit and veggies. So one of my favorite vegetables, potatoes. Potatoes are every day, year long, available, tasty stuff.
They also have, I imagine, part of your consideration with fresh produce is like, how do we provide fresh produce in a way that's fresh, but that has sort of like where everything is not going to spoil at the same time, at the same temperature. You can keep potatoes a little longer in the sort of like dark, dormant areas.
Exactly.
So those are staples these are the staples for like any sort of fresh produce box you're making, irregardless of the community.
Yes, yeah. They will always have these items.
We got some onions too. That's another staple. And you want to grab some tomatoes?
And then we have tomatoes.
I got them. I like this. This is also like for me, when I think about it, the sort of checklist of direction of like, how do I show up for people in a way, to your point, that is like culturally affirming, and that's going to make their home feel like home, not make this box feel like an alien invasion of produce that they're like, what is this? What do I do with it? That sort of thing. Which I think sometimes we forget when we're doing a food drive and thinking cleaning out the pantry is the same thing as showing up, that there's a lot more thought to it than that, to really withhold the power of the intention.
Right. And we have to, I think something we talk about all the time is to remember that we're not shopping for ourselves. And so there are things that when we go to the store, I'm just like, wow, look, these shishitos look so great, you know? And like, I would love the shishitos for me, but sometimes they don't make sense in the box, not because people wouldn't enjoy them, but because in this time of need, it's not necessarily the best option to introduce a potentially new product that someone's like, I have no idea what to do with this, and I need to cook something for my family. So thinking about these things that are very easy to use, very easy to turn into something, I think is kind of the basis for all of our essentials. Like you can make something with these to start off a recipe.
Yeah, I think the last one that we're gonna,
or
a couple less.
We have eggs.
Love it.
Eggs are easy. You know, they're a breakfast source, a lunch source. You can add them to a lot of things. So we try to include eggs. Oh, we have, wait, we have more. Okay. We also have lettuce, and we want to shout out Gotham Greens. Gotham Greens was one of our first partners, Gotham Greens and Lifeway, which we also have. When we started working on partnerships and what that would look like for Grocery Run Club, we wanted to make sure that we were tapping into companies that also cared about food insecurity, and that were also local. So Gotham Greens is one of those brands for us. They give us like 13 cases of lettuce every week. So yeah, it's over 100 lettuce heads. It's like 150 lettuce heads that we give directly to our Gage Park community. And so it's just so nice to have kind of like this leafy green that people can count on, that's always in our boxes. So we're putting that in. They have a greenhouse in New York. They have a really awesome greenhouse on the south side of Chicago that we just feel like is so important for people to know that like sustainable, organic, like friendly items can be grown in the city too, because I think it's easy to forget that sometimes with all of the noise.
Like not all about canned goods.
Right.
Oh yeah.
Right.
And we also have some Lifeway. They have been our day ones.
They're also day ones. Yeah.
Awesome.
I got a big bottle, Jorge.
We got the plate out too.
Like you found these partners found you. How did you really connect with Gotham Greens and Lifeway?
That's so much of relationships. Gotham Greens, so I worked for Stephanie Izard for many years. And so one year when we were in Aspen, Gotham Greens sponsored this big activation at the Food and Wine Festival that it was one of the first activations that I was blown away by. And I'll never forget that activation. And that relationship was always there with Steph. And so I kind of knew that although they're a larger brand, there was a personal connection there of them caring about the same things that we're trying to accomplish. And so Steph's team connected us to Gotham Greens, and they've been a partner since literally, I think, the second week. And then
Lifeway just hit us up on Instagram and email, and they just like bold emailed us. They're like, hey, can we be a part of this? And they are like, I want to say they're like local for sure. They're up in like office, they're up in Niles and whatnot. So we're obviously like super grateful that they reached out. And Lifeway, the product is great. We're also like health focused, right? It's fresh produce usually. We do non-perishables, but the idea is to like stay local, have people cook, have people have natural ingredients. So Lifeway made, it was a no-brainer for us.
And we feel like even with things like this is kind of in that same realm of like the fruit. It's easy. Like you can drink it on the spot. And we find that a lot of people, when we're dropping these off, are super excited to have yogurt, which is not something that, I guess I eat yogurt a lot too, but it's not something that I thought like, oh, of all the things, like yogurt would bring you joy, and it does. So we love including.
Okay, lessons that I have so far are like, don't underestimate the basics through a variety of lenses, irregardless of the community. Two, when you show up, just show up with curiosity, looking to connect with these communities truly to understand, like, is it cat food? Is it yogurt? Because to your point, Luce, like the seemingly most simple thing or the thing that maybe is not obvious at all to you is a really, really, really powerful moment in making these communities, helping like just continue to reaffirm life and how they live life in communities. I mean, I feel like I want to drop off dog food and cat food because I'm thinking like the quality of my life is so much better with a pet in it. But if I am in a space where I'm food insecure, imagine what happens to my pet and then the trickling effect. And then also the like, never underestimate the power of relationships or the power of a cold call in either direction.
That's so true.
There's people out there that want to help do good, and you could very well be the conduit for it.
Basically, you have a platform. I feel like what we've understood through this is that we all have platforms to utilize. And when you find your specific kind of like hyper localized community that you can use your platform to support, that all makes sense. Like Lifeway, knowing that they have this great organic, healthy product that connects with Grocery Run Club within our ethos, just hit us up and now we're here.
That's amazing. I'm like amped up, y'all. I'm very excited about my box.
You're gonna go shopping right after this.
I only have one layer full, which I've got room. My heart is full and I have so much more room to go. Okay, what's up next?
And then,
This is gonna be the last.
This is our last of our essentials. So this is bread. We love our friends at Middlebrow. This is again like on relationships. So Middlebrow is a restaurant based here in Chicago. Again, from like our past lives, our friend is the owner there, and they started a really amazing program called Community Loaf. So people that buy bread or beer or food from them can add an extra $5 to their purchase, which goes to this Community Loaf fund, and that allows them to bake another loaf of bread and donate it. So we get about 80 loaves of bread from them every week from that initiative. So it's like, we're so grateful for them. And also just another way that shows like, there's so many little ways that you can help people out, and that whether you're a business owner or purchasing something, like there's kind of that extra step that you can do to help. So
I used to buy beer from Pete when he was like contract brewing out in the suburbs, and now they have their own brewery / pizza restaurant in the city, and we got connected again, and now we're like, he's donating bread to this initiative. So the world is
the world connects, and it's small.
It's like if you're a good person in the world and you put good vibes out, like every day of your life, you're training for the next day. You're preparing.
Yeah, that's so true.
I love that. Cool. So then we're going to go into the culture affirming kind of portion of these produce boxes when we go to like Little Village, which is a Latino, Latinx, predominantly Mexican community here in Chicago, or Gage Park, another Latinx predominantly community in Chicago as well. These are the essentials that we are focusing on when adding them to the box. So
this one was a little bit easier for us because Jorge's parents are from Colombia and my parents are from Mexico. And so it was very easy to think about like, what are the things that my mom always had in the house? And I think Chicago is the second largest Mexican community outside of LA. And so I think for us, like Jorge always gets confused for being Mexican, which I feel really bad about, but it's because there's so many of us here. And so these are kind of more tailored definitely to the Mexican communities that we serve. So we have rice.
I got my rice. That's fascinating. Your families are both in Chicago still?
Yeah. Shout out to my mom. Hi, Mom.
It's kind of crazy thinking about our parents because our parents have now lived in the US longer than they ever lived in their home countries, which is like crazy to think about. My parents moved here in the early 70s. They were both teenagers. So it's kind of like that weird intersection of like, this is kind of their home more than their normal home was.
Yeah, my mom hates stuff.
Where are they from, Luce?
What's up?
What part of Mexico are they from?
My parents are from Degollado, Jalisco. So pretty like in the middle of Mexico. And I think like the reason that Chicago was so appealing to them was because of this large Mexican community. They knew people that were here, and then living in Little Village, which is a community that we serve and the community that I grew up in, it is like a little Mexico. You know, there's everything that you would find in Mexico, you can find on that strip. And so I think it was kind of very easy to understand like why folks from Mexico would move to this place that reminds them of home.
And what about you, Jorge? Where in Colombia are your folks from?
My parents are from Pereira, Colombia, which is a ever-growing city in Colombia. I haven't been there in 10 years. My mom came here in the late 70s, early 80s, and she's been here predominantly for the majority of her life. And she loves the Bears, she loves the Bulls, she loves the Cubs. But she's still at the core, like hardcore Colombian.
Yeah.
Especially when she starts speaking Spanish, you can definitely hear that accent coming.
Yeah, I love that. That's like I am who I am and all the different facets that I am who I am.
Exactly.
Totally.
So yes, we're gonna add some tortillas. El milagro.
No Mexican home is complete without tortillas.
So think about it. Corn tortillas for sure.
100% all the time.
Got it. And is there like a perishability factor to think about when buying corn tortillas for a box like this?
There is. They can usually stay room temperature for a little bit, like after purchase. My mom has always had like 20 dozen tortillas in the refrigerator, and she'll tell you that they never go bad, but I'm sure that there's a perishability factor there. But they're pretty easy, like to stay out on the counter for a little bit. Once you open them, you want to put them in the fridge.
I feel like that's a very mom thing, right? It's like, just put it in the fridge, it'll be fine.
She's stocked up.
She's stocked up. When the pandemic started, there was a shortage on tortillas. Of like this is a local company. They're a Mexican-owned company that's been around since the 50s, and so it was just so eye-opening to realize that like every Mexican home depends on having tortillas to like serve with all meals. Like there's never a time when my mom doesn't have the stove on and is heating up a tortilla. So it's little things like that. I mean, tortillas like this pack is 40 cents. Like it's 40 cents, but it has 12 tortillas to feed a family and to make sure that it's something that feels of comfort to folks when they're eating a meal.
And that for me is like the ness of, if you didn't grow up in your household or in a Mexican household, you aren't thinking about, when you're like, I'm gonna show up with my box of produce and like a bunch of canned goods, you aren't thinking about these like they're not nuances, they're family by family, they're community by community. You aren't trying to be insensitive, but there's also the point of this whole conversation, which is so enlightening and eye-opening, is there's so much more opportunity for you to really understand how your impact can make a really big difference.
And for us too, right? It's a day in, day out kind of process and opportunity, and getting into that mindset of like thinking and consciously like going through what the options are and whatnot. Like it's definitely work, but it's work that needs to be done, and we're happy that we're doing it. We're gonna add some beans, some pinto beans.
We prefer adding the canned ones just because they're a little bit easier to eat or time sensitive. Instead of like getting a bag of beans that you then have to cook for X amount of hours, like this is easier for families.
Got it. And this is a scenario where canned product 100% has a place in this box.
Sorry, what was that?
This is like a scenario where having a canned product in this box is totally legitimate and helpful and has a place.
1000%. And we'll talk about like a couple of non-perishables that we add here and there. We're realizing even now as we're going into the winter season that a lot of families are kind of leaning towards having non-perishables just because they want to make sure that they're secure with food at home instead of having kind of these items that may go bad in a couple of days if they're not consumed. So we definitely try to include, when appropriate, a couple of non-perishables.
Yeah, especially in Chicago, winter is brutal.
Yeah, I mean, your winters aren't that much better either, but.
But also I think about beans, and it's like, if you soak them the night before and then you're cooking them for, for quite a long time on your stovetop, I would be more thoughtful of like, that's a long time to leave your gas stove on or to pay for electric on your electric bill, and that sort of like acknowledgement is an interesting one, both from like, maybe I'm working and I need to feed my family quick. And then also that reality of like, I don't want to pay for that.
Yeah.
Right. I don't want to cook. I don't like things that take like too long cooking. So like, I don't even want to cook beans for, 2 hours on the stove. So, we also have some chiles. It's really an assortment of whatever we like our peppers. So we have serranos, jalapenos, and poblanos. Whatever you can find, again, just like an easy thing to add.
Are you mad about like a canned diced green chili?
We can't. No, that's totally fine. Those are. I think that they're equally interchangeable.
Yeah. Totally.
We have things like garlic. This could very easily be like on the essential base as well.
That could go in the essential, or it could go community to community.
Yeah, 1000%. And then we have our last two things are that we include for the Latinx community are things, we get these things requested all the time. It's salt and cooking oil. They're so simple, and they're things that I think like all of us probably use cooking, but we've never seen it requested more.
We've literally been told, like, I've gone to other places where they give out produce boxes, or there are like donations, and it's a donation based experience, and we never see this. So it'd be really great if we could get this in our produce box. We also load up a bunch of community fridges throughout the city, specifically in Little Village. So while we're loading up those community fridges, we get to have those conversations with everyone around the neighborhood, and they have specifically said, like, we never see this. And from time to time, like, oil and salt, not that expensive, but it still helps. It still definitely offsets costs.
It makes sense. Like, everything else we put in the box is pointless if you don't have something and something to make the sharpness. Like, as people in the food industry, Bay Club, you all know the importance of fat and salt, irregardless of whether you're doing sweet and savory.
Exactly. And it's such a, like, I mean, these are, I think, also something to point out about the produce box, and that we call out when we're sharing with folks of where your donation goes when you donate to us. These items are not expensive, like the salt maybe is $1, like that Morton salt. This is maybe like $2, and obviously things add up, but these are kind of our more expensive items that we're putting onto the box. Everything else is less. And so we're able to put together a box that's around $10 or less with kind of these essentials and the culturally affirming items. So
you were telling me too, like, some of these neighborhoods' realities are that maybe they have more access to fresh produce, but their neighborhood store either didn't stay open through the pandemic, or maybe through riots or otherwise was destroyed, and for one reason or another isn't able to reopen. And that might be the place that these communities were dependent on to get either kitchen essentials or otherwise essentials. And I thought that was a really interesting thing to really like take hold of and remember as well.
Yeah, I think it's easy to forget when you live in an area that has access to multiple grocery stores, or we think about it even where we live. It's like, oh, we can go to the Amish healthy food store across the street, or we can go to the bodega on the corner. We have options. And I think that once you start getting onto the south and west sides, it's so easy for you to drive for blocks and not see a store that's open that has these things. So if you are a community member that is literally just wants to go to the store to buy something, you may not have a store around you that is open and available. And so you might not have a car. You may be elderly. Like a lot of the community members that we serve are also elderly folks. And so they're not walking, a mile to go and grab salt.
Food deserts and food apartheid is a real thing, right? It's a real thing that has been around before COVID and before protests, and that's going to be around moving forward once this all kind of keeps on going into this normalcy and stuff. So that's why the idea is to be here as a long-standing lifeline to all these communities, so that food apartheid and that those food deserts can dwindle down, and everyone can have everyday essentials. That is their right, their human right. Yeah. All right, so we're gonna pivot, or we're gonna transition into the Black and African American community. some essentials that we utilize in our North Lawndale community garden delivery service, and we distribute, when it's nice out, we distribute our community boxes out of the community garden, which is super cool because we also get to utilize some of the stuff that's being harvested and grown there. Austin, predominantly Black neighborhood in Chicago, that we also we'll add some non-perishables that we add to the free market as well. So we'll start off with some okra.
These are requests that we've gotten, again, like from community members. We try and find okra whenever we can. So we're adding that to the box. Our box is getting full.
Our friends over Bronzeville Kenwood Mutual Aid have been a really great partnership that we've had, and they specifically were the first like group of organizers that are like, yo, okra, everyone's looking for okra. This would be such a great, addition to this produce box. So that's why we've really focused on that.
And the collards happened at the North Lawndale Community Garden. We're doing our first distribution, and we thankfully have Kelly, who is the organizer there. She knows the community in and out. And so we were like, what are some things that people are looking for? And she directed us to essentially two folks that she knows very well that we could talk to in confidence. And we said, what do you want us to bring? And she was very transparent, saying, you're asking me what the Black folks want you to bring? And we were like, yeah, that is what we're asking for. We're comfortable saying that we don't know certain things, and instead of guessing, let's just ask. To your point of like, just ask people, just have conversations. And so when we spoke to Betty, she said, if you guys could bring collards, that would be amazing. Like, we all cook collards. And so we started to bring collards into the garden, and we noticed that we could bring, 3 boxes, and people wanted more. They were like, these things cook down so much that this is
bring me 10 more. It's so true.
So we bring collards whenever we can. We also get amazing donations from an urban garden that we share a warehouse with, called the Roof Crop. They grow all sorts of things from tomatoes to greens. And so when they have extra collards, they send them our way, which is really great to know that we're growing them in the city.
Got some corn.
And some corn as well.
How do you feel about canned corn?
Great. I think for the same reasons as the beans, like easy.
Yeah, inevitably, to your point, we're getting to a season where local stuff changes because the season changes, and I always have canned corn at my house, but that's the sort of, like, because I have it doesn't necessarily mean that it lands, but.
Right, but I think that, the worst thing is like thinking, I have to go get corn for someone, and then you show up to the grocery store and the corn's super gross.
Exactly.
And then you still feel like you have to get it, and then you give someone something that's not in its greatest shape. Like, we don't want that either. So if you see something that doesn't look too great, then get it canned. It's still better. It's still a great equivalent.
Totally.
We're not gonna put these in the box because they don't fit. We're gonna show them.
I'm just gonna Gatorade has been a new addition, very recent addition to the grocery run list.
This would be like our non-perishables, like whenever we're stocking kind of like an outdoor market or a community fridge.
Or like fall, winter produce box potentially, right? Because people want to stock up on some stuff that they can eat through the colder months. So we're out in Inglewood as well in Chicago with Dion's community fridge, Dion's Chicago Dream. Dion has had a community fridge out there for maybe the last month, and talking to the community members, it's a little bit more of a younger community that hangs out around there, and they specifically asked for Gatorade.
Gatorade.
So why not? Like, when your neighbors are asking for something so specific, like, you might as well add it there. And as someone that has been, running and athlete and whatnot, like, Gatorade's delicious. Easy. Mac and cheese, right? A classic. I want to call out like a thing, we're constantly learning, but we were stocking the free market in Austin, and I was like, I'm not going to bring Kraft, I'm going to bring Annie's. Like, I like eating Annie's. We love Annie's, we love Kraft.
We love both. This is what I grew up eating. And so we took the Annie's, and this market, because it's in a community that is in high need, a lot of the things come off the shelves very quickly. Sometimes all of it's gone while we're there. And so we put the Annie's and we came back the following, like a couple days later to restock, and the Annie's was still there. And so I was like, this is so crazy that, you know, you could think about like, well, if someone's hungry, they're going to take what's there and they're going to cook it. But this recognition of this weird brand, it had all this organic stuff on the top, you know, like it's so important to bring things that are familiar to people, especially in these times of need. So like echo everything that we've been saying. But so I'm not saying that people don't want to eat Annie's, but that's what we found in our Annie's versus craft.
We want to have people feel comfortable, right?
Yeah.
Through this whole process.
Totally.
Got some cans of tuna.
Is it the same with canned tuna brand, or is it sort of like if it's canned and it's in the shape that feels like tuna, it lands?
Right.
Mac and cheese.
The latter for sure. I think when people see tuna, like people are familiar with that, and it's so versatile. Like, you know what I mean? Like throw it some rice, have a tuna sandwich, tuna salad. So
you've got the bread in there, so you could do the tuna salad. Okay, got it.
Right. We alternate between kind of the canned and this pouch. We like calling out that when you're buying non-perishables, it's really important to get things that have kind of this little latch. Some people don't have a can opener. And so to create kind of like that additional barrier of like, now I have this food, but I don't know how I'm going to open it because I don't have a can opener. That's kind of also why we started purchasing some of these bags, because they're easy to open. So just something that we wanted to call out.
Have some juice pouches for the youngins.
Kind of in the same category as like Gatorade, something like easy to drink.
Chunky noodle soup.
Soup, like just so easy. We see a lot of the boxes that come out of other food distribution hubs. Of course, like much larger ones. Our capacity is growing every week, but you know, we're not pumping out thousands of boxes every week yet. And so Campbell's soup is usually in there, but sometimes there are flavors that people wouldn't necessarily eat. And so we try to kind of up it a little bit more. My mom always had these, like when she didn't want to cook, it's maybe like 25 cents more. And we just try to get like classic chicken noodle just so that it's easy. And again, like people feel like, okay, I know what this is going to taste like. It's not an extra learning.
And it's the same top.
Top, yeah, for sure.
That's a great call out.
And the
That's our last item.
couple items, yeah, it's just the combo pasta and pasta sauce with the latchable, easy to open joint on there.
Got it.
Yeah, those are more of the non-perishable aspects to the produce box that we utilize here.
So I'm thinking that like canned soup is not necessarily a bad thing, provided you're being really thoughtful about like the pull top and the premium nature and the sort of like, if it's been in your drawer for a really long time and you didn't want to eat it, that's not showing up for someone that you want to care about because you weren't interested in it. And it's not hand-me-downs is not the equivalent of really showing up for these communities and to your point, like narrowing the gap of the food apartheid.
Totally. And I think like, you know, when we have the ability to go a little bit more premium, we do. But that's to say, like our friend Joe Flam said something that has really stuck with me. He said when he had a baby recently, and when he was going through classes, they tell you like, you just have to feed the baby. Whatever you are feeding the baby, feed the baby. And so we were talking about how that translates into feeding people. And yes, we would love to get everything organic and locally grown and all of that. But when we're talking about just meeting, you know, that's kind of up here. We're talking about getting here first. Like, let's get everyone here first. And then let's talk about like what these premium items are, how we can get people to understand more things about growing your own food and where your food comes from. But that's like a whole other layer aside from meeting food insecurity. And we hope to get there soon at some point, but obviously like we're just trying to stick to what the community needs right now versus what we're hoping to get to later.
Yeah.
And I imagine part of it is finding a way to forge the relationship, to your point, like getting the community members to give you feedback and confidence to to trust you, to trust the process, to not believe that to have the confidence that their food insecurity doesn't have to last for long, and that you're showing up with the real heart and the real soul and the real spirit, and wanting to get to know them and to see them, not just to say, I did a good deed for the day, I'm good, I can go back to my little world over here that's very different. It's like we're here and we're here to stay, and the only way we can help is if we really understand what helping looks like.
Right. And we talk about all the time of like the importance to show up consistently, which is why we have structured our partnerships so that they are on a weekly basis. Because I think that a lot of what happens, especially during these times, is people want to help and then they want to do all this stuff, and then the appetite to help kind of lowers. And so if you decide to, if you want to help, and if you have to just figure out what that lane is for you. Is that lane that you're going to show up at the same organization for a month and build community with people, or do you only have time to show up, once and then that's it? Like, what does that long lasting change look like for you? And how does it fit into your schedule so that you can keep it going and it doesn't just disappear? Because I think that that's the problem that happens in a lot of disinvested communities, is that people show up and then they leave. And then people are like, wait, they were here, where did they go? Like, they were helping us out. And I think that that's something that we feel very strongly about not doing. We want to make sure that you know us, you're holding us accountable. Like, if we don't show up on Saturday at our normal drop off, it's like, where were you? Is everything okay? Like, you build these relationships and it just makes this work so much easier, because you're not feeding an imaginary person. You know exactly who you're feeding if you spend the time to build that community and those relationships.
Hyper-focused, intentional, meaningful, critically thinking. If you were on the other end, like, what would you want, right? As simple as that.
Know that you could depend on the people that are showing up within your community, asking to be accepted, and are saying they want to be a part of your community. Community only looks like, there's some basics to community that are non-negotiable, to your point.
Okay, totally.
Okay, I pulled out some things from my pantry, and I want your opinion on whether or not they have a place or whether they don't have a place. Because I think this is really enlightening, right? Like, I was like, is pasta and tomato sauce a thing? And it's sort of like, yes, if it's a jar or a twist top, for sure, within a certain community. Okay, I have tea bags, like Lipton tea bags. Is that too much of, like, someone's got to boil water and make tea? It could be iced tea.
I think
those are
that's a thumbs up. I would say, like, anything that isn't labeled, just be aware of that, because it is potentially, someone might look at that and not understand something like that. But yes, tea bags.
Wow. Well, I feel better about the idea of this. This is Campbell's Slow Kettle Creamy Broccoli Cheddar Bits. It's like primo soup vibes. It's just about knowing what community will appreciate this and feel seen with it.
Yeah. Totally.
Yeah, we totally agree with that.
Panko. That might, I don't know.
No, like, it's, to your point, it's the sort of like Annie's of like, it's in my house because it's a new product and it's interesting. But is that really going to translate? Or is it going to be like, what the H is pork panko?
Yeah.
That's safe for home. That's give it to a friend that thinks it's interesting.
Let's give it to a friend. Let's give it to a friend. That's a good alternative.
Math tool. My mom brought this back from Jerusalem. It's like a grain, like a fricka of some sort.
No,
I'm gonna go down.
Yeah.
I feel like
my mom would be like,
we're gonna call polite no, Lucy. Pop rocks. Flavored.
Pop rocks.
Maybe.
This is kind of like in the middle for me. So sometimes one of our partners gives us kind of like their leftovers, which we always comb through. And something that we got in massive quantities last week was Chips Ahoy.
Oh,
I feel like this is kind of in that same realm. We were like, do we want to put Chips Ahoy? And then we're like, but we love Chips Ahoy. And like, Chips Ahoy could bring someone joy. So why wouldn't we do that?
Yeah, add it in as like the treat.
Like you could give it a try and then ask for feedback.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay. M&M's left over from Valentine's Day.
This is also what we talked about. Expiration day.
Like I was like, that's got to be a polite no. You know that those aren't fresh, and that's not
right.
Yes.
There is a heart on there. That's also like that's somebody's leftovers, and that's not cool.
Oh, you don't want to see like a turkey in July. You don't want to see a heart in like October.
Right. We struggle a lot with like the best buy dates or like the versus expiration dates, because we also received kind of like these little protein bars that had a best buy date that had passed. And so we were kind of like in this totter of like, how do we feel about someone opening the box? And we know that they're not bad, but they're not at their prime.
Yeah, like that expiration date is really just for like quality, right? Like it's not the most perfect texture, but nothing has spoiled it. Got it.
Right. So like it's kind of like us understanding this product is not bad, so we don't want to throw it away. But what's the perception of someone receiving it that may be like, oh, they gave me something expired, you know? So it's a weird line.
Got it. Now this is a tricky one. Raisins.
Oh, raisins
are in. Raisins are in.
Are they in the general or are they in community specific?
They're in the
general.
Yeah.
We've had raisins in the pro. Yeah, there you go. Throw them in there.
Yeah.
I say that because some people are like, raisins, that's you know what I mean? And it's like, but raisins can also be really delicious if you're raisins.
For sure.
Right. And some people, like we had dried cranberries at one distribution. We were like, who's gonna take these? And everyone was like, these are so great for your digestion. And we were like, oh, okay.
Great. Okay. So it lives in that space. Okay. I have strawberry drink mix, acknowledging it's meant to be like milk soluble.
I had that in my house growing up, always. So I would say it's in the like fun treat thing. It's not like the most nutritious thing ever, but it's a treat.
Okay. Coconut oil.
Coconut oil.
This is a privileged household.
Maybe like if you have that relationship, you know, talk and see if they're interested.
That's an app.
It's substituted in for Crisco. And it's sort of the like, ask a question. It could be helpful, but it could also just feel obtuse. Like, what the hell am I going to do?
Yeah.
When I saw coconut oil and turned off my baking brain, I was like, what am I supposed to do with coconut oil?
Right.
Got it. Okay. Raspberry chia smash. It's like a jam.
I'd probably skip on the raspberry chia.
Raspberry chia smash. That's a no. Jorge's giving me a polite no. Okay, and then this is an interesting.
She's like, that just sounds good. What are we talking about?
We're not grocery shopping.
I know, this is the hard part. We also are like, this is funny because we're huge fans of supermarket sweep. So like when we're at the grocery store, sometimes we're like, okay, let's pretend we're on supermarket sweep. So I also have to turn that part of my
Go to the turkeys. Go to the turkeys. Get the search.
We're not supermarket sweep. We're not shopping for ourselves. So it's sometimes it's hard to turn it off.
But I want to say there really should be. I'm gonna find Guy Fieri's information. I have some friends at the Food Network. There should be a grocery run club collab with Supermarket Sweep. I think that would be
fun. Here first.
If I can make it happen, can I just be like a supporting character in the back? I'll be the cart pusher for one of you. I'll put on my running shoes and I will just push the cart wherever you want to go.
I was thinking that's definitely like my most anxiety of supermarket sweep, thinking that like I have to go run and find the item. So we'll tag you in for that one. You'll be like my mate for that.
I have a really good, my dad was a navigator in the Navy, so I have a really good sense of direction, even at a grocery store.
That's awesome.
Probably all dork out together and how grocery stores work. Okay, this is my last one, and it's a really interesting one to me. It's a Velveeta cheesy bowl chicken Alfredo. So it's sort of like mac and cheese. There's chicken in it. It's primo, but I'm pretty sure it has to be microwaved.
Yeah, that's a tricky one. I don't know. That's like on the border for me.
That's border, I'd say.
Okay.
I feel like these situations,
Why?
Yeah. In these situations, like gut feeling, if you're really thinking about it a little bit too long, it's probably a no.
Okay. That's good feedback. I feel like half I was validated with, and the other half,
That wasn't bad.
Yeah.
some of which I was like, no one's taking that. But that's a good, I mean, I wanted to go through it because I was like, oh, I don't have anything in my house like that. And then I went through it and was like, I do.
Yeah.
And, I think, you know, at least back in the day when I was a kid, my mom to this day, like, comes from a family where, like, you show up for people. She's retired, and her full-time job is showing up for trying to find communities that need her to show up and showing up. And back in the day, I mean, you know, in like public elementary school, they do like the canned food drive, and you'd bring in the canned food, but there was never this acknowledgement in this conversation around, like, what community is it going to, and what are we bringing them? And it was always like what was in your pantry or in the back of your pantry. And like, the intention was there long ago, but you all are taking it to so much more thoughtful, meaningful space of every single one of us just wants to be met as the person that we are in the space that we're holding right now. And I think that's really powerful. Okay, final questions. If someone didn't live in Chicago and wanted to, like, really be the muscle behind showing up at a community, what are some of the best ways for them to think about doing that?
I would say stay local, get on your laptop, talk to some friends. There's something going on. I think it's easy to forget that there's literally something going on very close to the majority of where we're living. Like, there's need everywhere. Around every corner, right? So I'd say stay local, talk to some people, gather some people if you're able to, and just show up and try it out. You know, it's this, like, idea of, like, trying it over and over again to figure out what you are actually, like, you know, what space you're holding and what platform you can utilize and what your skill set can potentially be. And it's going through that process of understanding that, where then that, like, real big impact can come through. So, like, don't be scared of, like, showing up and, you know, going through the process, but it wasn't really, you know, your vibe, then try something else the next week, or bring some other friends and see if they like it. And, like, then you understand why they like it. And then it turns into a whole thing, right? So I honestly think it's as simple as that, like, intentionality and just trying something out just to get your foot in the door and go from there.
And I think, like, finding, like, really activating your friend group. I think we were able to start Grocery Run Club because of our friends. We essentially told our friends, like, hey, we have this idea of what this model could look like. Would you guys be open to this? And we basically asked 20 of our friends to Venmo us $5. And we were like, what can we do with this $100? We picked an org and we did a grocery run for them. And we were like, would you guys do this on a weekly basis? And when they said yes, we were like, okay, maybe we're onto something. And so we think it's something as simple as that. Like, you don't have to turn it into a whole organization, but, like, ask 5 of your friends to do something with you, because the things that you're going to be able to do together are so much better than what you're going to be able to do alone. Like, Jorge and I may have started Grocery Run Club, but, like, this doesn't happen without every single one who donates either product or finances, or who helps us out. So just, like, find who else is like-minded and who wants to help you kind of reach this bigger impact and run with it.
I mean, I think that's such a great place to start too, Luce. Like, the idea of, like, what can you and your friends do consistently, you and your community that have shared values do consistently. And then I think, Jorge, what I heard from you, and, like, my translation of it is, like, there's a role for everyone along the way. You don't have to be the person that's making the grocery run. You don't have to be the person packing the boxes, right? But there is a place and a function. Maybe you're a food maker. Maybe you have friends in the food industry and you can connect. Maybe you can help in different ways to get the message out, right? Like, there is a meaningful role for all different types of skill sets and people that are curious, that want to figure out how they can show up in a way that works for them, that leverages them, that still shows up with heart for the people in need.
Yeah.
Totally.
Perfect.
And then Grocery Run Club is funded, I imagine, by some of your incredible partners that we talked about, but it's also funded by friends that Venmo you $5. And at this point, we can show up for Grocery Run Club by donating on the website, groceryrun.club.com.
Correct. Yeah. And you can follow us on Instagram at Grocery Run Club. Check out what we're doing here. And ideally, in the near future, we'll be closer to everyone watching.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
I'm pumped. I cannot wait to follow you all, to cheer you on. I'm so inspired by like this deeper acknowledgement of what showing up means. We bake a lot at Bake Club, and we talk about the power of a baked good, and it's a powerful thing. And I love that like you don't have to turn on your oven to like yield that power, to harness it to do good. You two are such just like powerful, huge hearts in our world. And I'm so grateful. I feel honored that you came from the restaurant community. I'm honored to get to know you and to get to spend time with you and build a box with you. Thank you for being so giving of like your insights and your humor and the realities that surround this. No, well, you're about to get a whole lot more momentum because Bake Club shows up. We don't show up a little bit, we show up a lot of it. I cannot wait for you all to take over the gram on Tuesday. I would just like to request, can we just get eyes on Jorge in some sort of overall coverall in one of the warehouses? Because I think the one thing that you can't show when you're teaching us like the power of what goes in this box and why is the magnitude, the impact in such a positive way of what you all have been able to build at GRC in just a few short months. And I think that will give all of us just like the limitless potential of our own efforts, but in what we can do in every way, big and small, to help show up and support you in GRC and the incredible communities that you're showing up for.
Thank you. We promise to do both, and maybe Jorge will do like some outfit changes.
Yeah. Yeah. Supermarkets would be great. You two are the greatest. Bake Club, show up for Jorge, show up for Lucy as they continue to show up for their communities, our communities. We're all one community. Thank you so much for coming on to Bake Club. I learned so much today. The sky's the limit. You two are the best. Thank you.
Thank you.